As a parent, it's painful to watch your child struggle, especially when you've pinned your hopes on a detox protocol only to see behavior and signs get worse instead of better. If you've started your child on a heavy metal detox and suddenly notice a resurgence of meltdowns, sensory issues, sleep challenges, seizures, motor tics, anxiety, and other behaviors that you thought were long behind them, you're likely feeling quite discouraged and confused, but you're also not alone. And what's happening is actually very common. And here's what most practitioners aren't fully explaining. There are two very different reasons for this kind of regression, and understanding the difference can change everything about your child's healing journey. This message is for parents who've seen setbacks during a detox, or those who are considering it but have heard about this and are feeling, unsure and overwhelmed and not quite ready to pull the trigger. You'll discover why regression happens, how to tell if it's part of the healing process or a warning sign that an important step was missed. And most importantly, we'll cover that foundational step that should always come before a detox to make sure it's as safe and far more effective as it can be. All right, so let's dive into the problem even a bit deeper. A recent study looked at 59 known toxic chemicals and set out to see if these chemicals were present or not in umbilical cord blood, meaning they'd be passed on from mother to developing baby's brain and nervous system. And shockingly and sadly, 80% of these toxic chemicals were indeed found in that cord blood and were being passed on to babies. So our children are being exposed to heavy metals and environmental toxins before they even show up out here and take their first breath. And then you add in all these astonishingly and unbelievably high amounts of heavy metals and other toxic chemicals that our infants and young kids are exposed to through things like vaccinations, medications, and all sorts of environmental pollutants, household cleaners, pesticides, preservatives, chemicals in foods, laundry detergents, air pollution, you name it, the list goes on and on. And when we look at what the CDC says, they admit that 1 out of 6 kids has a neurodevelopmental condition. 40% of kids have at least one chronic illness. And there's research showing up more and more every day that connects these neurodevelopmental issues and chronic health challenges to heavy metal and other toxic exposures. So when you're armed with this information and the frustrating reality, parents like you are turning to detox protocols after exhausting traditional medical options that talk about it but don't really dive deep into it. What if you know that this detox has to happen, and those toxins and those chemicals, they need to get out of the body. We don't quite know if the regressions and things getting worse as you do it are a sign of healing happening or something missing. All right. So before we get ahead of ourselves, it's important to know that there are two distinct types of detox regressions and supposed setbacks. One is not actually a regression at all, and it's a positive sign that healing is happening when these toxins become mobilized from the tissue in the areas that got trapped and stuck in the body. And when the body is actually getting better, so often this will get kicked in from a neurologically, focused adjustments, and definitely from different detox agents, heavy metal binders, and so forth. It pulls those toxins out of the tissues, and they're going to circulate the bloodstream for a period of time before the body can get them officially and entirely eliminated. And it's those toxins in circulation, once again, that cause the flare-ups and the increase in the signs or the setbacks. In functional medicine, this is called a healing crisis. And it really is a neurophysiological or kind of neurochemistry reaction that the body needs to go through to get those toxins out of the body. That's the first type of detox regression and supposed step back. It's actually a sign of good, important, albeit very bumpy things happening. Now the second one, and it's hard to differentiate between these two going, to keep going through this video, but to get all the way to the end so you really, really know how to differentiate between the two. But the second one is a sign that your child's nervous system is still too unstable and not quite ready to handle the detox protocols. So what happens is when a child goes through the perfect storm, which we're going to break down real quick next, that leaves their nervous system in what's called a subluxated, dysregulated, dysfunctional state. So the nervous system is out of balance. The real nerd term for that is what's called dysautonomia. And whenever that dysfunction, that dysregulation, and dysautonomia or subluxation is stuck in the system foundationally, it leaves the entire nervous system in what's called sympathetic dominant fight or flight state. Now, what that'll do is that'll shut down the gut. It'll just really reduce motility and elimination from a very basic, almost biomechanical function. The body just literally can't move toxins through the body. That's why most kids with autism and so forth have all sorts of constipation and neurological, neurogastric challenges that don't even have anything to do with toxins or diet or heavy metals. It's just the body's plumbing literally can't work and get things out. The other thing that this subluxation and sympathetic dominance does is it leaves the immune system in a very hypersensitive, pro-inflammatory, just immediate reactionary state. And so at this kind of detox regression, it's a sign that we need to kind of go backwards to go forwards in terms of the healing modalities and care options and say, hey, if this child is getting significantly worse during the detox, it could be and often is a sign that there needs to be some foundational neurological and nervous system repair and regulation done first. Now, I said at the end of this video, I would help you as parents out there say, okay, well, which one is it? Is it a positive sign that the toxins are just back in the bloodstream and we got to push through and get it out of there? Or is it a sign that we, again, the best way, I can ever phrase this is kind of go back to go forward, which means, hey, let's look at all these different modalities and, the old saying, line up the ducks perhaps differently and in a different order. What if, like, to often call that batting order that, I like to call it a batting order or sequence, and the way you can really find out for your child, and what I'm about to say may sound like the least scientific thing that I'm going to say in this entire message, but the way you find out is you've got to really listen to your gut. Number one, you know your child best. And when they're going through setbacks and regressions and things are getting worse, your gut has something called the vagus nerve. It's your enteric nervous system. It's your innate nervous system. I know it sounds not scientific, but it actually is. Parents know their kids better, by 1,000,000,000 miles than even those practitioners like me who get invested in, as connected. Like, you'll never meet someone like a neurologically focused chiropractor who dives in as deep and just really works to get to know your child and your family, all the ins and outs at the level that we do. And even with that, you know your child best. So before I move on to the final talking point to this one, I just want you to know that the easiest and what I've found in almost 10 years of practice, most accurate way to differentiate between whether the detox regression is a positive sign or a sign that we need to hit pause and go down and do some neurological repair, which again, I'm going to break that down next. Listen to your gut. I know a lot of practitioners, even on the natural holistic side, don't always tell you to do that. But right smack in the middle of this one, I just really need just to illustrate that, because it's the most accurate, helpful, transformational thing that I've ever been able to do to help our children do. Okay, so back to that subluxation, dysregulation, dysfunction, dysautonomia. These nerd terms that I brought up, where do they come from? Why would a child's nervous system need to be repaired before we address the heavy metals and the toxins? Because if we go back and we look at a child's case history, and this, is also how you can help delineate between whether it's a positive or a potentially negative sign that your child's getting worse while they detox, is you can go back through your child's case history. And if there was a lot of stress on the fertility and the pregnancy journey, and there was a lot of intervention like forceps, vacuum, breech presentation, C-section, induction, epidural, and a lot of physical twisting, pulling, yanking, twisting, the physical trauma or injury to their brainstem, their neck, and the area. By the way, this whole sympathetic fight or flight nervous system dysregulation, all of that control, even of the digestive motility and all of the immune system and its reactions to things, its ability to detox and eliminate toxins, all of that is controlled in what's called the brainstem in the upper cervical area. So think of your child's brainstem, their upper neck area, as air traffic control for every physiological function in the body, primarily digestive motility, so detoxification and immune system and regulation of inflammation. And so when there is a lot of birth intervention and birth trauma, that is a sign that your child's nervous system is likely subluxated and foundationally injured. And that needs to be repaired. That needs to be corrected and adjusted first before they're going to respond well to the third component of the perfect storm, which is the toxins and the heavy metals and vaccinations and antibiotics and all the other chemicals that we're exposed to. And I want to really catch that point before we round third base and we finish up this message. The toxins that our kids are exposed to, they are very early in their life and their development. They are very much too often and too many, but they are third. And in the majority, about 85 to 90% of case studies that we do, case histories we take in our practice, and we've taken thousands of them, the stress from pregnancy and fertility and birth trauma and what's called subluxation and dysfunction into the autonomic nervous system, the vagus nerve, and all sorts of other nerdy things that I could teach you in addition to this video. At the brainstem area, those happen first before our children are even exposed to toxins, and they're the actual hidden in plain sight, real deep root cause as to why the toxins get trapped in the body in the first place. When the nervous system is subluxated and it's sympathetic dominant, that's what shuts down gut function. That's what messes up the microbiome. That's what wreaks havoc with the immune system and leads to 24/7, 365 neuroinflammation. It's subluxation early, even during and in utero, fetal development, and in those first moments of life, getting shifted into that constant sympathetic dominant fight or flight mode that really then shuts down the parasympathetic vagus nerve, rest, digest, detox mode. And so the nervous system must be healed. The nervous system has to be repaired before detox. The body's detox systems rely entirely on proper, optimal, full nervous system function. And specifically, that parasympathetic vagus nerve branch that is in charge of digestive motility, liver function, elimination, and anti-inflammation pathways. And so again, we've said it a ton of times here already in this one, but when that subluxation and sympathetic dominance is there, the body diverts its energy and blood flow. Just it takes all of that away from the organs of detoxification, like the liver and the kidneys, and it puts it entirely into the body into fight or flight mode. So it's not so worried about toxins when it's stuck in this physically locked in almost trauma presentation. And so it's a lot like driving down the road with the emergency brakes still locked on. You can be hammering on the gas pedal, and that's why so many functional medicine and detox programs are looking to do. They go all out, all of these binders, all of these supplements, all of these different things to get into the body and pull these toxins out. But if that child's body and nervous system is still subluxated and still sympathetic dominant, and the vagus nerve is still dysfunctional, they are locked in and locked up, and they can't get into a place to successfully, easily, effectively, and smoothly get those toxins out of the body, even with the best binders and the best protocols. So the final message here is the sequence matters most. In our clinical experience, and as we get more and more research and understanding of the neuroscience of chronic illness, autism, and so forth in kids, when you understand the sequence of the perfect storm and what happened in a very specific order to cause the child to get sick and end up with the diagnosis and all the symptoms and all the multifaceted, multi-system challenges that come with it, you know then that you've got to put the healing interventions and care options in that same order. And so when we take these case histories and we look at what's really going on with autism and chronic illness in kids, it doesn't start with toxins. It ends up where the toxins are locked in the body because the first thing that happened is subluxation, nervous system dysfunction, dysregulation, dysautonomia, sympathetic dominance, vagus nerve dysfunction. And so those are the things that need to get addressed and repaired first before the detox and elimination protocols kick in. And if you do address that foundation with neurologically focused chiropractic care first, and it can take often months to get that nervous system to that ready state and that level of regulation and what we call neurological stability. When you do, oh my goodness, now it's the time to hit all systems go and on the detox protocols, and not only will they be more effective and more complete, but the path to detoxification will be so much smoother as well. If your child is experiencing regression during their detox, don't lose hope. This might actually be a sign that deeper healing is needed at the neurological foundational level. Rather than abandoning, the detox journey altogether, consider taking a step to address that foundation first. Neurologically focused chiropractic care can help restore proper function to your child's nervous system and create a stable, what's called ready state foundation for effective, less symptomatic detoxification. And at Rising Health Chiropractic, we specialize not only in that foundational neurologically focused chiropractic care and adjustments to help get the nervous system back in balance, better regulated and to that ready state so that it can be and it can respond to interventions like detoxification and so forth more smoothly, more effectively. But we also are able to step in and help you do the toughest job out there, which is to organize all of these interventions and set the right batting order or sequence in place. We not only know the nervous system and root cause healing inside and out, but we work hard to build a network of other providers and specialists who can step in and keep supporting that healing framework once the nervous system is more stable and ready for that to happen. So, knowing what order to put these healing interventions in and when to put them in is the toughest job possible. And it's the most overlooked but wildly important aspect of helping your child heal optimally and reach their full potential with as few speed bumps and setbacks as possible, with as few speed bumps as possible, right? For both parents and providers alike, it can often feel like more is the right answer. But in reality, what we know is that doing things in the right order and truly taking the time to repair and restore the foundation of the nervous system at first, it makes all the difference in the world. So always remember, your child's body has an incredible innate capacity to heal. And sometimes it just needs the right support in the right sequence to reach that perfect unlock and ultimate breakthrough. God bless.